In 2016, 2,399 refugees were resettled in Massachusetts. I resettled 75 of them, specifically single males. Now in Boston, because of the cost of housing, we only take single males because they have to be employable and they have to have roommates. So if you take that number, that means on average, we're looking at a new 2-bedroom apartment every 2.5 weeks in Boston. It has to be accessible and affordable. On top of that, the landlords have to agree to take clients they've never met who don't have social security cards or credit histories or savings or any employment yet. So it's almost a constant effort just to look for housing before they even arrive. So with housing, logistics is just part of it. The other part is figuring out who's going to live with who. So I actually developed a big spreadsheet of where all of our people live and information about them. So where they're from, what languages they speak, what's their religion, dietary restrictions, just so that when someone arrives, they can be comfortable and have the best chances of success when they're in the beginning stages of their life in America. So it's August 2016. We just got through a crazy month scrambling for apartments, and I'm looking to see who's coming next. I've got 3 arrivals over the next 3 weeks, and I check my list, and I've actually got 3 spots. So that's great. Then I start to look and see who they are. I quickly realized that in this apartment, 2 bedrooms, I'm going to have 4 men from different countries, different languages, different cultures, different religions, different educations, different backgrounds, different jobs. Nothing in common on the sheet. As a case manager, this makes me a little bit nervous because I've had apartments with 6 guys from the same country, even the same village, and they can't live together just because of personalities. But it's all we have, and we're going to make it work. So I'll tell you a little bit about the 4 guys. The one who's already there is from Ethiopia, and he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Always had a positive attitude. Even coming home from working all night in a refrigerated packing facility, he was in a good mood. The next to arrive was a client from Afghanistan. He showed up with this camouflage baseball cap and a tactical wristwatch, and his English was great. I found out that it's because he worked as an interpreter with U.S. Army Special Forces for 3 years in Afghanistan. He was actually wounded in combat 3 times during that time period. Awesome guy. The next to arrive was a 20-year-old kid from Iraq, and it's not what you'd think. He showed up with Chuck Taylors and skinny jeans and a t-shirt with skulls on it and like a leather wristband with metal studs on it. Not what you'd expect. And all he was concerned about was music. And he listened to everything from Mariah Carey to Metallica. And he was just a good kid. Finally, it was an older gentleman from Somalia. Very well-dressed, very dapper, 0 English. And when Somali didn't work, he tried to speak to me in Italian, which also didn't really work. So these 4 guys are sharing a small 2-bedroom apartment in Massachusetts. Now that everyone's there, we do a home visit, and we basically have a house meeting with all the roommates, and we lay the ground rules. We talk about respecting each other's space and other things where people who haven't lived with other adults from other cultures, you have to do this just to make it work. So the morning I'm going to do this home visit, I'm just expecting it to be very difficult. A lot of things lost in translation, a lot of different personalities, a lot of expectation management, and I'm dreading it. It took me like 10 minutes just sitting in my car outside of the apartment, just giving myself a pep talk, and I go in, but nothing in all of the cases and all of the clients and all the apartments could have prepared me for what was waiting inside. Everything's clean, everything's organized. It was cleaner than the way I left it before they arrived. And everyone was in a good mood. And they had just finished breakfast and they'd already done the dishes. They were sharing tea. Even on the fridge, there was a chart with the chores for the week in 4 different languages and scripts. And they'd done all of this before I even sat them all down together. And I was amazed, and it was awesome, and I felt a little foolish for expecting the worst and literally getting the best. And this wasn't a fluke, it wasn't a honeymoon, and they kept this atmosphere like a family the entire time they lived together. They would study together, they'd take the train together, they helped each other make bank accounts, but it wasn't perfect. There's one day, about 2 months after that first visit, I'm visiting a new arrival in the apartment next door. And as I'm going in, their apartment has the door open, and I hear a commotion inside. I go through the open door and I see the 4 roommates and then a bunch of other people, neighbors, friends, supposedly interpreting. No idea what's going on, but it's an argument. They don't even notice me come in. I try to get them to calm down. And through the open door behind me comes the landlord. And I think this is the last thing I need. I'm going to lose this landlord and these apartments. But before I can say anything, the landlord takes control of the room and tells everyone to be quiet and sit down. Now, mind you, he's about this tall. He's 70 years old, and he's from Cambodia, and he himself left a conflict in his own country. He sat them down, and he said, "We've all seen enough conflict. We don't need this. We need to respect each other. We need to support each other. We need to love each other. We need to be brothers." And they got it. Regardless of what language they spoke, they got it. And it was done. They made up, they made tea, they carried on. I later found out they were arguing about what temperature they should keep the apartment. So I realized that all of my expectations were built on data, who they are, where they're from, what language they speak. That's not really who they are. Their core values were much stronger than all of those things. They were all kind, they were all patient, they're all hardworking, and they all wanted to make the world better in their own way. In a few weeks, I'll be going back to the military, and I'm going to take my experience here as a case manager working with refugees to remember the human element. When I make decisions that can affect policy, hopefully, and make less refugees. And I think I can do that as long as I remember to remember the people and not just the data.